So good morning again then. So today we'll start with electrophilic substitution of phenols, mainly phenols and then naphthols. Then we will also look into aromatic amines, maybe monoamines, diamines, and then naphthalene systems. Okay, some of the electrophilic substitution as well as the beta naphthals also. Okay. So, when we talk about electrophilic substitution of phenol, one reaction comes into play, and that is your uh, diazo coupling reaction. Okay, I'm sure all of you have studied diazo coupling reaction, and some of you have also done this reaction in laboratory. I think all of you have done this reaction in your first year laboratory. Does anybody remember what you did exactly for diazo coupling reaction? Do you remember it? So in your first year laboratory, when you have been given a sample like let's say aniline, you did one test to confirm that it is aniline. You remember what you did exactly with that compound?
So it was the beta naphthol test, I think.
Yes, correct. So, can you briefly tell me what you performed to do that test? This is precisely what it is. I will tell you why I am asking this, but because then you will connect what you did and what was the background knowledge of that, so that both will be connected together. So, can you tell me what you did exactly? Yeah, so when you took that amine, the aniline, then at first what you did is you put it into an acidic solution and then you added sodium nitrite, correct? And then after that, so you prepared some solution and then you poured into cold alkaline beta naphthol, correct? And
Yes.
yes,
And then it gives a red color dye.
it gave a red color tag. Yeah. So what is exactly happening behind it? That is what we wanted to learn. So you have done the experiment already. Now we will be learning the theory so that you will now understand. Oh, okay. So when I mix those things, this is what was happening. Okay. So what will happen if you add aniline and sodium nitrite in acidic medium? So let's first see that one. Then I will come back to this slide. Yeah, this is what it is. So when you take sodium nitrite, that is HNO2, sorry, NaNO2, so you can write it in this way, NaO bond NO. So in presence of acid, it will become HONO, and then this acid will protonate this H to make H2, which is a good Levene group. So it will form NO plus in the beginning, and this NO plus will now be attacked by your aniline, aromatic amine. Okay, it is a slow redetermining step. You form this sort of intermediate, and then the proton will leave from here to give this one, which rapidly rearrange to form this diazohydroxide, and then again the proton will it will protonate to remove this one, so that you form this compound. Okay, this is your diazonium salt. This is here N plus triple bond N, or probably this or this lone pair will come, or this bond will come here, so that the plus charge can come here. So it can exist in both of these resonating forms. Okay, so when you take the aniline first and then you add acid and NaNO2, you first generate this diazonium salt. Okay, and now when you pour this diazonium salt into alkaline beta naphthol, then you get the color. So there is some reaction happening there that now we will learn. Okay. So then you generated this diazonium salt. Okay. And this diazonium salt will now react with either a phenol or let's say beta naphthol, that is also phenol, in slightly alkaline pH. what it does, this negative charge will come, then it can react from this center to this electrophilic nitrogen, okay, to give this product. Okay, now there is this question is there, we'll come to this question, but before that let me discuss, or let me tell about this reaction, how this reaction happens, and why this kind of bond formation happens. Okay, so in this reaction, obviously your electrophile is your diazonium salt, correct? Diazonium salts are not extremely electrophilic in nature as compared to, let's say, your nitration, like what we studied before. Diazonium salt is fairly moderate electrophile. It's not that strong electrophile. First point. Okay, you can also note down this point if you want. Okay, now if you see this phenol, this is taken at alkaline pH. Okay, where this oxygen OH forms O negative. Now you can definitely ask me the question, why this negative charge itself not attacking N plus, why it is attacking through carbon center. Okay, yeah, both the possibilities remain, that it could attack to this oxygen or it could attack through this carbon center. But here the deciding factor is the bond energy or the bond strength, and it appears to be more stable through this carbon center and not through this oxygen center. Okay, and that is why this carbon center. When we will be doing this amino compound, you will see that the amines are indeed directly attacking to this nitrogen center, but not the oxygen. It cannot do it. Here the bond strength is better when it attacks through this carbon center. This is your second point. Okay, your third point is, you can ask again, why it is attacking only through para position and not through ortho position. Okay, mainly because of the steric bulk. So the diazonium coupling generally happens through this para position, but not always. It could also attack from the ortho position. We will give for beta naphthol. Okay, for beta naphthol case, it is actually working in the ortho position, but maybe the reason is little bit different. Okay, so I already said 3 points. Okay, first point is your diazonium salt is a bit weak, is not as strong as your nitration, so the reaction in this case is slightly slower. uh, it definitely needs an activated nucleophile, for example in this case alkaline pH. Second point, we said that why this oxygen negative is not attacking and carbon center is attacking. That is because the bond energy through this carbon nitrogen is a bit better than with oxygen for this particular system. For amino system, we'll see actually little bit of the both. Okay, we'll see that. Third point, we said that it works through the para mainly, and not much to the ortho in this case, but it could also happen from the ortho position. Another point, you must have seen that we have taken alkaline pH. Okay, what would happen if we take acidic pH? If we take acidic pH, this O will happen. Okay, and that is why you need slightly alkaline pH for this.
Sir, can
So
you repeat your last point, that acidic pH one?
yeah, so when you take alkaline pH, then your OH, the phenol, will become phenoxide. The moment it becomes phenoxide, this negative charge, the electron density can be given to the ring. The ring will become electron rich in nature, and that is how this electron rich can can donate or can attack to this electrophile. But if it is at, let's say, neutral or acidic pH, this phenol would remain as phenol, so it will not create that phenoxide ion. So the reaction would be either slower or possibly will not occur. Okay. Okay, now that you understood little bit of the background of this reaction, let's do this problem. Okay, this problem you will again find with the book of Peter Sykes. what it says that unlike phenol, anisole does not give diazocoupling reaction when treated with benzene diazonium salt. So I think I answered this question already. What it is saying? It's saying that phenol reacts with diazonium chloride, benzene diazonium chloride. Yes, we said in alkaline pH because this O negative is generating and it can attach to the para position. But anisole cannot, because in anisole this O, there is no H but OMe. So your oxygen is now protected. It doesn't form the phenoxide ion. If it cannot form the phenoxide ion, like here, so this is your anisole. Here, even if it is in alkaline pH, it cannot form the phenoxide ion. So if it cannot form the phenoxide ion, this aromatic ring cannot be electronically rich in nature, and that is why the nucleophilicity decreases significantly, and that cannot attack to the weak benzene diazonium salt. Okay, because as I said, benzene diazonium chloride is not very strong electrophile. So even if we protect this one, the reaction does not happen, because in this case this approaching nucleophile becomes weak, as under alkaline pH phenoxide ion cannot be generated. Okay, and because there is no acidic hydrogen atom. So this is a bad nucleophile, this is a bad electrophile. So bad combination does not happen. Then what it says, but gives the above reaction when treated with 2,4-dinitrobenzene diazonium cation. Okay, so this reaction happens when we do the reaction with 2,4-dinitrobenzene diazonium cation. So this is 2,4-dinitrobenzene diazonium cation. What it happens in this case, because it is in 2,4 position, it can play minus R effect very strongly, and that is why this weak electrophile will now become very strong electrophile. Okay, so the electrophilicity of this diazonium salt will increase drastically. Okay, and that is why even if this is a bad nucleophile, weak nucleophile, because this is a strong electrophile, they can react, and that is why it can react from its para position to give this diazocoupling. Okay.
So why? So in that thing, it is tri-substituted, but we
Which
said
one?
only 2,4-dinitro, right?
Yeah, it is 2,4 dinitro diazonate. Okay.
So, but there are three nitro groups, so shouldn't it be tri-substituted?
No, there are two only. In the 2 and 4, and this is your NW1N. 2, 3 is in the bottom. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about on
Oh,
top.
okay. So yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you have 2,4 dinitro, okay, you cannot see my cursor obviously, right? That is what is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in the top structure, after the anisole, you see that there is 2,4 dinitro phenyl hydrazine, okay, phenyl diazonium salt, and because of these 2 and 4 nitro groups, this diazonium salt will now become strongly electrophilic in nature, and because of that, you form this uh, the compound, okay, where you have the para position atom. Now come back here again, it says that moreover in the question, okay, in the third line it says that moreover mesitylene gives the above reaction when treated with 2,4,6 trinitrobenzene diazonium cation. It says mesitylene reacts with 2,4,6 trinitrobenzene diazonium cation. So if it is mesitylene, now you can see the mesitylene 1,3,5 trimethyl benzene. So in mesitylene there is no OMe or there is no OH group. So this is very weak electrophile because there is no electron donating plus R effect. Okay, only plus I effect does. So it is very weak in terms of a nucleophile. But because you have 2,4,6 trinitro benzene diazonium cation, there will be a positive charge on this nitrogen in this 2,4,6 trinitro benzene diazonium salt. Okay, So this actually is very strong electrophile because of this 3-nitro group, and because of that both of them actually react to give this product. Okay, so you get the product from here. So what is the summary? The summary is, when you have the phenoxide ion in alkaline pH, it can readily react with your benzene diazonium salt to give this product. Okay, diazocoupling at the para position. But when you make this as a anisole in the top left structure, anisole, because it do not have the phenoxide ion, it becomes very weak. And that is why this cannot react with your approaching electrophile as benzene diazonium salt, which is bad electrophile, so it does not react. But if you take 2,4-dinitrophenyl I mean 2,4-dinitro benzene diazonium salt, they will react because of this 2,4-dinitro. This will become highly activated electrophile, and they will give this diazocoupling product. Then they are saying that if you take mesitylene and if you take 2,4,6 trinitrobenzene diazonium cation, then also they will react, because in this case, even if the nucleophile is very weak, the electrophile is actually very strong, and that is why you get the product. Is it clear now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this I have already explained. You can also find this reaction in the Finard's book. Okay. Okay, I think I had to remove one thing. Okay, anyway. Now do the reactions of phenol. There are few other reactions that are there. So first is the bromination reaction. Um, okay, this I am coming after doing this one. Okay. So phenol on treatment with bromine in water gives 2,4,6 tribromophenol, but on treatment with bromine in CS2 gives mainly parabromophenol. Okay. So this happens because your bromine in water, it leads to another sort of intermediate in HOBr, where your electrophilicity of this bromine is actually increases. Okay, and because of that, when you take phenol and you take bromine water, it forms this HOBr. It leads to tribromophenol. I think this reaction also you have done in your first year laboratory. You got the phenol and then you added bromine water and then you got white precipitate. Okay, so you made this product already. So this is how it happens. But when you take bromine in cesium CS2 carbon disulfide, then what happens is that this bromine is less associated with the solvent. So the electrophilicity of this bromine is not as much as that with the bromine in water, and that is why in this case only monobromo phenol is formed. Okay. Now, what happens in the first case in the top, when you take, let's say, para-aminophenol, okay, para-aminophenol, and then you react it with let's say ArN2 plus Cl minus under slightly alkaline pH. What will happen under slightly alkaline pH? So your OH will be deprotonated because it is alkaline pH. Then it will form as O negative charge, and this O negative will come, and then the reaction will happen either of these two ortho positions. Okay, because it's an ortho orienting group, because your para is already protected. So you get this product. But if this reaction is done in slightly acidic pH, what will happen that your OH will now remain protonated. But your amine, it is slightly acidic, so your amine is not still became ammonium, it is still remain amine, but your lone pairs are still free, so it can give its lone pair. So these ortho positions are now activated. Okay, so that is why now the reaction is happening ortho to the amine. So at alkaline pH, you get the reaction ortho to the OH, but in slightly acidic pH, you get product ortho to the amine. Okay. Okay, this example is done. Another example is there, and that is, let's say you have salicylic acid. I think this experiment also you have done. So salicylic acid, if it is strongly heated in presence of bromine water, what will happen? So generally what happens is, first your this BrOH will form, as like last time as I said, and then this lone pair will come and it take one bromine from here, and then decarboxylation happens to keep this monobromophenol. Following that, you have another BrOH forms, which leads to the tribromophenol derivative. So either you take phenol or you take orthocarboxyphenol or orthohydroxybenzaldehyde, salicylaldehyde. In both the cases, you form actually this 2,4,6 tribromophenol derivative. Okay. Okay. So initially we did the diazocoupling reaction of phenol. Now we will do the diazocoupling reaction of amine and we'll see what happens. Actually, these reactions also, some of these, not all, some of these reactions also you have done on your own in your first year laboratory. For example, in dimethyl aniline, when you got this compound, you did the diazonium test. Also, when you got, let's say, N-methyl aniline, that also that compound was also provided in your first year lab. Okay, so let's study this reaction then. What exactly happens? So there is a little bit difference from your phenol to your amines when it comes to the diazonium chemistry. As I said, the diazonium salt is not very strong; it is slightly weak, and the phenol prefer to react via the carbon center, not the oxygen center. But when it comes to the amines, at first, actually this amine nitrogen reacts with the diazonium cation. Okay, but this could also rearrange. We'll see in later. So there are possibility because it is kind of a borderline. The bond here, the bond energy is more or less comparable with when it reacts with this amine or when it reacts with this carbon center. So two possibilities can happen depending on different circumstances. Okay, so first we can call it like a kinetic product. Okay, so if you take primary or secondary aromatic amines, it has always one hydrogen. At least for primary you have two hydrogen, for secondary amine it has one hydrogen. Okay, so it initially gives diazoamino compound. So if this nitrogen reacts with this N positive, it leads to this compound. It is called diazoamino compound. Okay. But if you take tertiary amine do not have this proton. So this proton cannot leave from here. In this reaction, in the second step, you see that there is a minus H plus term. Okay. But if you take tertiary amine in the second example, it do not have the proton. So this proton cannot leave, and that is why this nitrogen center cannot react to this diazonium salt. Okay, so that is why in case of tertiary amine, actually the reaction happens through the carbon center because it do not have any other possibility. Okay, so first let's see for the primary amine. In primary amine, this nitrogen lone pair react with this nitrogen and then it forms NH2 plus N double bond N air, and then one proton is left, and then you get benzene NH single bond N double bond N air. This could also remain in resonance because this hydrogen can come here and this double bond can come here, so it can form pH N double bond N single bond NH air. Do you see what I am saying? This diazoamino compound, this could be in resonance. Okay. And what will happen for this tertiary amine? This lone pair will come here, and then through para position, it takes para because your steric interaction is much less. That is why it reacts with the para position. And then again, this hydrogen goes away. and you get the aromatic product. So in this case, you get the diazo coupling straight away, but in the first case, you get the diazo amino compound. Okay. Now, kinetically also, so they have done the kinetic studies. What they found is in the first step, the addition of this, let's say you are talk, if we say, if we talk about this tertiary amine, this first step where this diazonium cation is actually reacting, this is basically the rate determining step. Is the same also for the phenol case. So the first step is actually your rate determining step, and CH cleavage step is basically your first step. So then what would be the rate equation? The rate equation would be K, concentration of your amine and concentration of your diazonium salt. It's a second order reaction. Okay. But sometimes for, let's say, primary amine, the second step sometimes becomes the rate determining step. Okay. So the order could also change. Okay. But more or
Sir,
less, yeah.
can you repeat that point about the thermodynamic studies of this reaction?
Yeah, so if you see for the second example, when I talked about tertiary amine, so what they're saying is that the first step where your diazonium salt is getting attacked at the para position, this step mostly remains at the as the rate determining step, and that is why then your in your rate equation what will appear is your this amine, the tertiary amine, and your diazonium salt. So it is mostly a second order reaction. Okay. But what some of the cases when they do this reaction in slightly basic condition, let's say in the primary amine case, when they do the reaction in slightly basic condition, sometimes this proton elimination step could also be the rate determining step. Some of the cases, not all. Okay. Okay. One thing I have not mentioned here is
Sir,
that
why? Is there any reason for that?
it is basically, I think, case to case variation. So in some cases, you have, let's say, the attacking tendency of that amine is more, so maybe or less. So that is why the first step is maybe the redetermining step followed by the proton. But in some cases, maybe the substrate is maybe has more attacking tendency if it is in the basic media. Then this attack would be fast, but then proton elimination from this para position would be a bit slow. Probably that is the reason that the rate equation slightly modifies in those cases. Okay. So yeah. One thing I have not mentioned is that unlike phenol generally like to react in slightly alkaline pH. That is what you have also seen in your beta naphthol case, because you make slightly alkaline beta naphthol while before pouring your diazonium salt. Okay, at cold condition, you remember, right? You used your ice bath and ice cold solution both, and then you mix, then you get the red color. Otherwise, it just ruined. But in case of amine, it actually it prefers to give reaction in very mild acidic medium. Okay, this reaction is preferred to give in slightly acidic medium. Okay, if you make it more acidic, then also the reaction will not occur, because in that case your amine will convert into an ammonia, and that then the nucleophilic property will be mostly gone. So this reaction will not occur in basic sorry, in highly acidic medium. But interestingly, this diazoamino compound, if you heat it in acid, the fate or the course of the reaction will change drastically. Let's see that one. What they're saying, that question is, what happens when diazoamino compound of aniline, what happens when diazoamino compound of aniline with benzene diazonium chloride is warmed with acid catalyst? So this is our diazoamino compound, and then we have a acid catalyst. It's not strong acid, it's just catalyst. Okay, acid catalyst. And then what happens is, so in this case both the amines are same, so it will be same wherever you do the protonation. So it will be protonated and it will first dissociate. So how did you make this initial compound? You took aniline and you took benzene diazonium chloride. So they will actually initially first dissociate to aniline and benzene diazonium salt. And then instead of reacting from this nitrogen center, it will now react from the para position carbon center to form this amino azo compound. So initially it was diazoamino compound, and when you want with acid catalyst, it will convert into amino azo compound. Okay. So as I said, this is actually in heating condition. So the course of the reaction changes. You can consider that this diazoamino compound to be the kinetic product and amino azo compound as the thermodynamic product, because you are doing it in warming condition, but the carbon nitrogen bond actually is forming here. So probably this is becoming the more stable one. Okay, and that is why you can consider this is the thermodynamic product while this is the kinetic product. Okay. Okay, this is just a problem corresponding to that earlier what we taught. So it says that paratoluidine reacts with benzene diazonium salt to give a compound which on boiling with dilute H2SO4 produces 4 products. Okay, so paratoluidine, this is para-amino toluene. When it reacts with your benzene diazonium salt, first it gives this diazoamino compound. Okay, and then this diazoamino compound can rearrange in the bottom. So this H will be gone to the other nitrogen, so double bond can come here. Now when you boil with dilute H2SO4, the single bond will be broken first. Okay, so that you get pH NH2 from this side, and this side N double bond N plus, but this N double bond benzene diazonium salt. So this is N double bond N plus. Now as you know that this is N2 plus. N2 plus is a good leaving group, and when you boil with dilute acid, this N2 plus will leave and replaced with OH. I think this also you have studied previously in your reaction chemistry. So then you get paracresol, parahydroxy toluene, okay, from this batch. And when the single bond in your diazoamino compound, the single bond is here, that is close to your paratoluidine, then this bond will be broken. So you get the starting material back, that is your paratoluidine and your benzene diazonium salt. And now benzene diazonium salt in presence of acid will be replaced with PHOH. So you get the phenol. So you get phenol and paratoluidine, and if it rearranges here, you get aniline and paracresol. So these are the 4 products. Okay. Okay, of course, one is starting material, but you can consider is that 4 components you are generating. Okay. So did you get everything from here? I'll just repeat one more time. So first you have paratoluidine and you have benzene diazonium salt in the first 2 structure. Then you form this diazoamino compound. Now this diazoamino compound can break in presence of acid. Where it can break? It can break at the N single bond N center. Now this N single bond N can be at the 2 different positions. The diazoamino compound can rearrange itself. In one case, your N single bond N is close to your paratoluidine center. Another case, it is close to your benzene pH center. So when it is in paratoluidine center, in the right hand side in the first line, while the H2SO4, this N single bond N will break. So you get back your paratoluidine and this pH N2 plus. N2 plus is a good leaving group, will go and replaced with OH in the acid medium. So you get PHOH. So first couple of products is paratoluidine and PHOH plus N2. N2 will anyway evaporate. And in the second case, where you have Ne, pH, N double bond N, single bond NH, pH, here your NN bond, NN single bond will break at the second step, means at the N single bond NH step. So then what will happen in this case? You get pH NH2 from here, and then you get Me pH N2 plus. That N2 plus will go replaced with OH So you get Me, pH and para position OH. Okay, so you get para torsion. So you get 4 product in this way. Okay. Okay, this question I want the answer from you. So this says that NN dimethyl aniline gives diazocoupling reaction but not 2,6-NN tetramethyl aniline when treated with pH N2 plus and slightly acidic pH. So what is the answer? I think all of you can give this answer. We have done this kind of problem before. Any answer from you? NN dimethyl aniline gives diazocoupling reaction, okay, but not 2,6-NN tetramethyl aniline. What will happen? 2,6-NN tetramethyl aniline. Can you visualize the structure? In your aniline, N has 2 methyl group and 2,6 position you have 2 methyl group. So what will happen there?
Steric hindrance.
Yes. So because of that steric effect, it will be going out of the plane. Okay. So when you have NN dimethyl aniline here, so this lone pair can be given to this aromatic ring so that this para position is activated, can be activated, so that your diazocoupling reaction can form. But when there is another 2 methyl group at this 2 position, this methyl-methyl steric interaction will be strong, and that is why this NMe2 group will be out of plane to that of this aromatic system, and that is why this lone pair cannot be donated as a Plasser effect to this system, and that is why this aromatic ring uh, cannot be activated, and that is why it will not give the diazonium salt. Okay, I mean the diazocoupling reaction. Okay, so this was all about diazocoupling reaction and some electrophilic reaction of phenol. Um, so we saw the diazocoupling reaction for both your phenol and also your amine. We found that in one case, in case of phenol, it is mostly the carbon center, mainly the para position through which it is reacting. But when we saw the amines, we found that initially it reacts to the amine center as a diazoamino compound, and then if we heat it to the acid catalyst, it actually reacts with the carbon center as an amino acid compound. Okay, so let's now come to the naphthalene system. This is our last part of today's talk. So in naphthalene system is a bit complicated as compared to the mononuclear like benzene system. So here there are many possibilities for electrophilic substitution, but among that there are only 2 positions which are most reactive. We will now find out that, and we will also do some of the electrophilic reaction along with the diazocoupling reaction. Okay. So first you take naphthalene, that is in the middle, and then you can react. So at what position it will react if you take, let's say, to nitration? There are 2 possible positions as you can see. That is 1 position that is in the top and 2 position that is in the beta position like here. Okay. So if it reacts at 1 position, you get a positive charge at the 2 position which can be in resonance with this double bond to give this resonating structure. But if the reaction happens at 2 position, this positive charge gives only one resonating structure. Okay, if we do not involve the other ring, if you involve the other ring and do the resonating structure, you will find that the product that comes after 1 position, this positive charge will have 7 resonating structure, and at the 2 position, this structure will have 6 resonating structure. This is your homework. you can find out how these 7 and 6 resonating structures are forming. Okay. So what did I say? I said that if it attacks at one position, it will lead to total 7 resonating structures, and if it reacts with 2 positions, it will lead to total 6 resonating structures. And because the number of resonating structures are more in case of 1, the 1 position is slightly more reactive than the 2 position. Okay, this is also depends on the situation. There is also kinetic versus thermodynamic phenomena. We'll see in the next example. So if you do nitration, mostly it will go into the 1 position. So you will get 1 nitronaphthalene. Okay. But if you do sulfonation, this case is little bit complicated. The question is, sulfonation of naphthalene with concentrated sulfuric acid at 80 degrees Celsius leads to mainly one substituted product, that is naphthalene, one sulfonic acid. But if you do the reaction at 160 degrees Celsius, it will give to 2 sulfonic acid derivative. Okay, why is that so? So first you take this naphthalene, and then at 80 degrees Celsius it leads to this 1 sulfonic acid derivative, as usual, like the nitration case, because this is a kinetic product. Okay, and you generate at 100%. This is the exclusive product. But if you react at 160 degrees Celsius, then what happens? You get the 2 sulfonic acid derivative, that is an 80%, and 1 sulfonic acid, that is 20%. Why this comes here at high temperature? Because at higher temperature, this, in the bottom you can see that this hydrogen at other 8 position do have a steric interaction with this SO3H group. Okay, so because of this steric interaction, which becoming very prominent at high temperature, so that is why this one position attack is not favorable at high temperature, and that is why this sulfonic acid comes to the 2 position as 80%. So here then your 1 sulfonic acid is your kinetically controlled product, and 2 sulfonic acid is your thermodynamically controlled product. Why is it so? Because you have a peri interaction. It's called peri interaction. You have hydrogen here and you have sulfonic acid here, and they SO3H group, and they do steric interaction. Because of that, SO3H group would like to go into the 2 position. Now this reaction is again checked, like whether this reaction is reversible or not, whether this kinetically and thermodynamic product concept is correct or not. What did they do? They took this 1 sulfonic acid, the product that happened in the kinetically pathway, as 100%. In the left side bottom, you can see that now they are heating it at 160 degrees Celsius. Okay, and when you heat at 160 degree, you eventually get 2 sulfonic acid as 80% and 1 sulfonic acid is 20%, which you are getting in this reaction condition. So that means this reaction is definitely going through kinetic pathway. First, at low temperature, it forms 1 sulfonic acid as a kinetic product, and then when you heat it, the kinetic product slowly converts into the more stable thermodynamic product. Okay. Now, how does this reaction happens? Whether it forms intramolecularly or whether the solvent participates. In order to do that, they took leveled sulfuric acid, like H2SO4, sulfur is 34, so this sulfur is 35 they have taken. So then this SO3H, this S will be labeled as 35, S35. So when they did this, they took this 1 sulfonic acid, heated it at 160 degree in presence of leveled H2SO4. What would you expect? In this 2 sulfonic acid, whether this SO4 group will be incorporated or not? There are 2 possibilities. One is this is strictly intramolecular in nature or intermolecular in nature, so that the leveled H2SO4 will not be incorporated in this 2 sulfonic acid, or the bond could be broken totally, like it will come back to the naphthalene state and then it will go to the reaction. Is it becoming complicated? Are you getting it, what I'm saying? If not, then you can ask me, okay? This is also there in the Peter Sykes book. You can also read it, okay? So what did I say? I'll just tell again. How do we know the pathway? How this kinetic to thermodynamic conversion is happening? Okay. How is it happening is, so first you take this one sulfonic acid, heat it at 160 degree in presence of your leveled sulfuric acid, that is S35 H2SO4. Okay. Then there are two possibilities can happen. One possibility is your SO3H in one sulfonic acid it breaks, the bond breaks completely, it comes to the naphthalene and comes sulfuric acid state, followed by the reaction. If that happens, then your S35 can be incorporated easily. But if the reaction happens like strictly intramolecular or intermolecular in nature, that means the SO3H group just shifts from 1 to 2 position. In that case, maybe it's an intramolecular. So in that case, you would not expect that the labeled SO3H group will be incorporated in this 2 sulfonic acid. So experimentally, what they found is in this 2 sulfonic acid, actually both labeled and unlabeled SO3H groups are there. Okay. So because of, that indicates that the pathway is basically both. So in some cases it is in intramolecular in nature. In some cases it is also the bond breaking followed by the bond making. Okay. That is why maybe it is not very interesting, but it is interesting to know the fact how this reaction is happening. Got it? Is it clear now? Okay. If you have question, you can definitely ask me. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to this diazo coupling reaction. This is very interesting, and this reaction you have done. So we will mainly focus on alpha naphthol and beta naphthol. Okay. So if we first take beta naphthol and if we take benzene diazonium salt, it mainly reacts at the 1 position, that is in the top position here, to give this one diazo coupled product at 1 position, and it is also stable because of the intramolecular hydrogen bond. Okay. But so here coupling reaction takes place at 1 position for the beta naphthol. If 1 position is blocked, then generally no diazo coupling reaction takes place. Okay. But if you take alpha naphthol, that is your OH is at 1 position, that is O negative is forming at 1 position. It has actually 2 possibilities. That is, either it can react with your 2 position, the diazo coupling can happen at 2 position, and also the diazo coupling can happen at 4 position. Now, it also depends on the steric factor, mainly steric factor, where this diazo coupling would prefer to happen. So most of the time actually it has observed that the diazo coupling can happen at the para position if the steric factor is weak, if the steric factor is not playing the role. But if the steric factor is less, then it could also react at the 2 position. For example, in case of alpha naphthol, you have both possibility of reacting at the 4 position as well as the possibility of the 2 position. Okay. And sometimes this 4 position product is predominant than the 2 position atom. Okay. One question you might be having, that when it is beta naphthol in the top example, so it has 2 ortho position, either this 1 position on top or this other ortho position that is in the bottom. So why is it only attacking in the top ortho position? Why not this ortho position? So this can be explained. You understood my point? This can be explained based on the resonating structure again. So when you make the resonating structure, you make it OH and do the resonating structure, you will again find that this top position is more active. The resonating structures are, number of resonating structures are more. You will get the 7 resonating structure for reacting at this one position of this ring, but not at the 3 position. That is the other ortho position. So that is why for beta naphthol, the reaction is mainly occur in this ortho position. Okay, got it? So this is what is your diazocoupling reaction, and we have now come to the last slide. I think I did this reaction. I mean, I had to delete from the before. I have not done that, so this part will be. This question is now out. Okay, so you have only 3 questions that you need to answer. This is your homework. So then it will be 2 into 3. This is a 6 marks question and you have to submit by tomorrow. This, I think this already I have answered. I should have deleted. Okay. So what will happen if you do the reaction with orthophenylene diamine, metaphenylene diamine and paraphenylene diamine? If you treat with HNO2 and dilute acid in presence of acid. Okay. What will be their products? So if you search some book, you will get the reaction, the answer, but I will not tell right now. So it has some marks. So it will be total 6 marks. Okay, 2 into 3, total 6 marks, not 10. And you have to submit by tomorrow evening 6 p.m. and you can send me in my email ID. What you can do is you can just write down in your paper, take a snapshot, and just send me. That is also fine. Okay, I mean the structures.
Sir, what about the one on the right side that also?
That reaction I think I have discussed already. Today's class already I have discussed, right?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I mean I could have I should have deleted from the beginning, but somehow I did not do that. So this example is you don't have to do, but these 3 you have to do. Okay. Orthophenylene diamine, metaphenylene diamine, and paraphenylene diamine. What will happen if you treat them with HNO2? So yeah, one thing you remember, please do not copy. Please do not exchange your ideas with other friends. Let it be independent. If the 2 answer matches exactly along with the words, then probably I will not give the marks. Okay. So do not discuss the ideas. And I do not know. So there are total, I think, 20 of you are attending. Them are not attending. They will lose the mark. Actually, all these marks will add up to the final marks. If they do not submit, they will lose the mark. So if you know, then you can